Hey everyone, welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. This episode, we're to be studying a piece by the established multidisciplinary artist and Dr. Drbolick. This episode, we're to be talking about near-symmetrical order, we're going to talk about the echoes of Mucha, and we're also going to talk about the immense influence of Art Nouveau. So let's jump right into it. So whenever you first see this work, really met this flood of lively light in such a pristine scene here, the viewer likely feels a sense of awe due to the incredibly ornate nature of the work before us here. What you'll notice, of course, the setting is incredibly grand, incredibly luxurious. This is actually inspired by the Grand Palais in Paris. The original artist is actually a former French resident, so that is quite fitting here. Of course, you see the impact of natural light with those windows in both instances quite clearly. And the work before us here, whenever you first see this work, the eye kind of searches far within. It appears to have a courtyard of some kind, but there's really no doubt that light is a definitive element in both of these instances. So the artist, of course, a former resident of Paris, it's incredibly interesting. You can kind of imagine what that artist was seeing on a day-to-day basis, kind of surrounded by, of course, the Art Nouveau movement. We'll get a bit deeper in that here in a second. Absolutely stunning, and the Grand Palais is such a beautiful destination. So in the realm of color, you note this kind of analogous scheme, right? We have, of course, gold, we have green, and then we have a little bit of blue as well, especially up here. What you'll notice, of course, an analogous scheme, those are all next to each other on the color wheel, so they blend quite nicely. What I also notice is, of course, this kind of natural color palette, the green and the gold. Those are two very central colors to the natural world, right? And so you'll also notice a brilliant sense of texture here. We see this, most clearly in these kind of impressionistic wisps of these plants here, but we also see it in the kind of rigid, ornate nature of the buildings around us here. So absolutely stunning, and all of these invigorate the spatial composition with a bit of visual energy, which you'll also notice, of course, that visual energy comes from light, one of the most definitive elements of the work at hand. After a short time at this work, you'll also notice kind of triangular order to the composition, primarily in these kind of towers, right? That does give the place like a sense of order. Of course, it's not top heavy by any means. It feels very natural, feels, of course, balanced and harmonious as well. One thing I want to also point to is the near symmetrical order of the composition. So, of course, a vertical axis, you can see how it is near symmetrical, kind of mirrored across that vertical axis on either side. This is also feeling a sense of harmonious visual experience and that sense of balance that we feel here, all very important when we're looking at this work. And so it's quite interesting, going all the way back to the realist right before the impressionists, they were fighting the Academy's influence in so many different ways. Alongside this was the kind of burgeoning middle class in the 1870s to the 1890s or so, and they really sought their own artistic influence. They had their own money to support artists, and a lot of artists weren't constrained to the Academy at this point. They're kind of breaking those chains. So incredibly interesting, and we see, of course, the precursor to Art Nouveau in so many different ways. What I wanted to talk about here is Alphonse Mucha, and Mucha is an incredibly popular, incredibly important Art Nouveau artist, and he really found his first big break with his poster of Gismonda. So Art Nouveau, a lot of these artists started off by creating kind of graphic design posters for a lot of actresses. So we certainly see that here. Of course, this was a massive hit in the 1890s, really gave Mucha his first big break and created him as an iconic artist of the Art Nouveau movement. When you look at Art Nouveau art, there's so many different ways you could tackle it, but to put it quite simply, it really rejects uniformity to create each piece as incredibly unique. The kind of birth of the Industrial Revolution, you saw a lot of mechanization. You saw a lot of the uniformity, creating a factory floor kind of mass production, created a lot of things that were very minimalistic, if you will, but not very unique in that kind of aspect as well. So Art Nouveau is incredibly important. It kind of adds that ornate or that uniqueness to it as well. What you'll also notice, of course, it revives the divine feminine, or the feminine next to the natural world as well. So absolutely stunning. This really gave Alphonse Mucha his first big break and gave him kind of the status of an iconic artist in the Art Nouveau movement. And Art Nouveau would go to permeate so many different mediums and styles, from decorative arts to, of course, the graphic design that we just saw there, all the way to, architecture, fashion, so many different examples you could truly point to there. Art Nouveau touched it with absolute ease. It's incredibly ornate, incredibly luxurious, and, in the countless revivals we see, that's always what we point to. The sense of luxury, a sense of the natural world, and of course, an incredibly unique work every single time we see that. So absolutely stunning, and we always love to study that, especially something as striking in the art history movement as Art Nouveau. So truly hope y'all enjoyed today. This is an AI generative artwork, so it was created in an AI generative art program. It's going to be a mid-journey, really giving the perfect, mix of accessibility and power. All the way from amateurs to professionals are using mid-journey. So if y'all want to give it a try, I would certainly suggest it. It's really worth your time and incredibly powerful as well, especially these newer iterations. So truly hope y'all enjoyed today. We talked about so many different things from, near-symmetrical harmony, the impact of color, the impact of light, Art Nouveau, Alphonse Mucha, AI generative art, so many different things we talked on today. I truly hope y'all enjoyed. If y'all did, go check out the original artist, Drbolick, doing some amazing stuff in multiple different mediums, from AI generative art all the way to, so many different mediums. Like I said, multidisciplinary artist for sure. My name is Apollo. This was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see y'all on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.